So, second video in a row with crazy hair, well aware. So I'm halfway through my compost pile. Don't know how well you can see that. And I'm not moving it now, but I just wanted to share with you. Can you hear the starlings? There's starlings nesting in the tops of all those trees there. If I zoom in, can you see them? There must be well over 1,000 up in those trees. And every year in the autumn and spring, but all through the winter, but predominantly in the autumn and spring, we get them just sitting in these trees on their way to and from the marshes where they spend their nights. The reason I'm telling you this is because I'm hoping that I'll be able to catch what's called a murmuration, which is when there's a flock of them all moving like a cloud, which is generally what's going to happen after they've been up in those trees for a little bit before they all decide to take off at the same time. And basically you hear the chattering, and then when the chattering stops is when you look up, because it means they're taking off. And like I said, I'll try and catch one of those murmurations as it happens, because they quite often happen over our house, and it's fantastic to see. Here come more just flying overhead. Almost there with my bed. I've got a little bit more cardboard. You can see we're almost there now, and that's all lovely and deep. It's a good 6 to 8 inches deep throughout. It varies because the ground contours, and I'm trying to flatten it off. So I think I'm going to be left, once I've finished and filled this in and squared the bed off, I think I'm going to be left with about maybe a ton, maybe half a ton, somewhere in between. And I'll just sprinkle a bit over the rest of the bed. I've still got some compost left that we've made, although most of that pile isn't quite ready yet. There's a bit in the middle that I can use, and I think that'll just get me over the rest of this bed. So you saw me in a video just before, I think before Christmas, might have been after Christmas. I've already topped off a lot of this with new compost, and it doesn't look new anymore because it's just been sat there for a few weeks and it's settled down. What else have I got to share with you guys quickly while I'm out here? I've got some rubbish to pick up. This is rubbish from a salt lick. I've given my goats a fresh salt lick. The other one had run out. Can you see it there hanging from the tree? So that contains not just salts, but minerals that the goats need. Goats and sheep both need a mineral lick, but the ones that the goats need contains copper, and something that the sheep actually would find harmful. So that's why it's hung up there, so that rhubarb can't get to it. But she's got her own. There's another lick in a bucket. Let me see if I can show you. Right down in the corner there, just behind rhubarb against the fence, is another lick, another mineral lick. And that one down there is for sheep, so they can all have that one. This has got everything. The one hanging from the tree has got everything that other one's got in it, plus a couple of things that aren't very good for the sheep, copper being one of them. So, but they're all very, very happy today. I've given them some bread, they've had lots of hay, and they're chilling out inside. I think they're definitely feeling pregnant. Not you, eh? I'm under very specific instructions from my wife not to play not to play too rough with Sid, because it encourages him to play rough with her and the kids when they're in the field. So I've backed off that a little bit. Look, this looks like a Mexican standoff. So you can see the pigs behind me there, they've just been fed as well. They're all happy, aren't you? You can tell, because the only time they're not absolutely screaming is when they've literally just been fed. And within half an hour they'll be up at the gate, up at the fence rather, constantly screaming for more food. So I'm panting a bit. I'm a bit dishevelled, but it's because I finished this bed. I managed to get the cardboard that I needed. I went to a local recycling centre. Just a quick note to say that if you're struggling for cardboard, you can always come to your local recycling centre where they'll have a skip full of it. They'll be more than happy for you to take it away. So yeah, I've finished all that and I've started working through the last of my compost, just putting an inch or two everywhere else. And one of the next jobs that I want to do this year, we've decided we're going to run basically a big wall of canes all down this back side of the bed. So our bed aspect, if you like, is south facing. So if I just come out and reorientate you again. So here's our bed, that's south. So the whole bed is facing south. That's the north side of the bed along that hedge. So we're going to build a wall of canes all the way along the back, and we're going to use that for vertical growing. We're going to have lots of runner beans, but we're also going to grow our gourds, our pumpkins and our squash, our butternut squash, up those canes, because I'm really happy with last year's crop of pumpkins and butternut squash, but they are quite sprawling. They're a big plant and they can take up and crowd out quite a lot of your space if you leave them on the ground. So we want to get as much of that growth up off the ground this year as possible. So the next thing that we need to do, obviously apart from carrying on just topping off with compost, which I'm going to do, the next thing is going to be to build our cane structure all down the back. And to do that, we're going to use bamboo, and it's a three-step process for us. So we've got quite a few canes left over from previous years, but not nearly enough. We've never built a structure as big as that for canes. So we've got all these. Some of these are several years old and are going to be a bit rotten. Whichever way we slice it, we're going to need a lot more. So luckily we've got two big clumps of bamboo that grow in our garden, so we're going to harvest our own from there. And it's a pretty simple process, but we're even luckier than just that. So I'll show you the bamboo first, and then I'll cut some, and I'll show you another advantage we have when it comes to processing our bamboo. So I'm just going to use a really ropey old saw. An old rusty saw, because it's going to allow me to get in there, not worry too much about snagging it in the earth or, you know, getting it messed up, blunted on stones, or in any other way damaged. So sometimes it depends what mood I'm in. I might use a chainsaw even, but I think this time I'm going to be happy with just this. So you can see here, this is one of our two clumps of bamboo behind me. It's supposed to be, this is a formal bed, and it's supposed to be in like a nice square tight clump back there. So we're going to take quite a bit off. You can see the last year or the year before, this is where we harvested from. You see all these coming out the ground, so it is starting to spread, so we don't have to worry about damaging the plant. One of the things with bamboo is it's such a vigorous plant, you really don't need to worry about damaging it. So we're going to take all that out, that loose stuff that's growing back there, and we're going to take these odd ones out here and just square that up again. And by squaring that up, it's going to produce lots and lots of bamboo for us to use. So this is probably half the amount of bamboo we're going to want this year, but it's a good start. Only took me 5 minutes. There's hardly any cutting involved really. I just, after the first few odd ones that were on their own around the outside, I just grabbed a clump under my left arm and sort of bend it back, and then used my right arm to saw with against the way they were bent, if that makes sense. Anyway, let me just put the saw back. So as you can tell, we haven't quite got bamboo stems now. We've got the whole plant, and there's quite a lot of greenery on it, but I've got some friends that will strip them back to the bamboo stalks for me, and they'll be very glad to do it. So these guys will strip all this back for me in next to no time. And it's really nice actually how this works, because this time of year in February, you know, there's not a lot of hedges around here that I'm cutting at the moment, or at least nothing with a lot of fresh growth on. So every year this is a nice little supplement to their diet, and you can see how much they enjoy it. So it's Sunday today. The time now is about 4:30, 5 o'clock, something like that in the afternoon. And I'm just about to go in and cook my family's tea. We're having a pork and cider casserole, which I'm looking forward to very, very much. And even though I'm going in, there's still some spring prep happening out here. Oh. It's such an awesome time of year. I feel like we're there, you know. I know I said this in the last couple of videos. It's not quite spring yet. It's still a bit dark, a bit damp. It's not too cold though. It's definitely warmed up. But we're getting there. Look, the bed's getting there. We've got seeds in compost in the house. We've got plants in pots that we need to pot on. We've got compost that needs moving. We've got bamboo to put up. It might not be spring yet, but we're doing spring stuff, and that's good enough for me. And changes everything about how you feel. And just today I've been really lucky because we've had about 4 or 5 hours of dry weather, and dry and warm, which is just very rare. In February it's either raining or it's cold. It's never warm and dry. But we've had about 4 hours today when I could come out and do this and not even need to dress up. I've had to shed layers. So it's yeah, it's getting close. And I say it's getting close, you know, for me, we're there, because even though it's not spring, I'm doing spring stuff. So over the next few weeks, I know exactly what I'm going to be spending my time doing. You know, I'm going to be working on the vegetable beds. I'm going to be potting up plants. I'm going to be transferring things into, you see our little outside greenhouse there, that little tiny one in behind the polytunnel. So that's the one that we've got to use until we can move some of our hens. But these are all the jobs I'm doing, and it makes you feel better. It makes you feel like it's spring. It doesn't feel like you're stuck in the middle of winter anymore. So that's just awesome. And I've had a really good time the last few weeks, actually, moving in this direction. I've been focusing really heavily on like the kitchen side of things and cooking, and that's been great too. And you know, that all ties into what we're doing in the garden. So you don't need to feel that just if all you can do is stuff inside, you don't need to feel that that has to be a complete roadblock, you know, to what you want to achieve. So I don't know if you can see the difference. Yeah, I'm sure you can. Here's the difference, look, between the bamboo. There's still some more to take off this, but you see the difference there behind me. And there's another clump a bit further down, which I think we did keep that one in check last year. So hopefully we'll get it all off this end, but we'll see. And yeah, just onwards and upwards, bring it on. And there have been times in the last few weeks, particularly for my wife, when it was almost like, for both of us, but particularly for my wife, but for both of us, when we had the conversation and we said, it's hard to even imagine the summertime. It's hard to even imagine what it's like in the summer, because it was that miserable. It was that wet. I think the chickens being in lockdown has been a huge contributory factor to that, but we're nearly there. We're nearly there. Summer is coming. If you find these videos valuable, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. please do press that like button, leave me a comment down below. Also, have a check out of our podcast. It releases every Monday, Wednesday and Friday. That's the Self-Sufficient Hub podcast. And I will speak to you guys very, very soon.